Hi everyone, I just want to bring you this patch 2.4.1 Tempest Rush sweeping wind build for the monk. The guiding principle for this build is kind of move fast, kill content, and loot those orbs. And the gear is centered around accomplishing those three goals, as you'll see in a moment. Most of the gear on the right hand side, as you can see, is pretty standard. We're looking at Sunwuko 5-piece and Caesar's Memento bracers, as well as Kairoshiro's Soul. I'm going to go over each piece of gear really briefly, just because I know that most of the Tempest Rush builds that are around right now use this kind of setup, but the unique things that make this good at doing T10 are the skill bar, and I want to get to that as quickly as possible. So I'm going to go over the essentials on the gear right now. The helmet, you want to go Dex, Vit, Crit Chance, Secondary Res, and I put a diamond in there for the cooldown, which you need. In the shoulders, Dex, Vit, cooldown, and RCR or all res, but in the case you go RCR, make sure you get a single res. In your gloves, Dex, Crit, cooldown. In your obsidian ring, Crit, CDR, and RCR. And you're going to take the RCR over the attack speed because you're going to be draining spirit too quickly if you take the attack speed over the RCR. Basically, RCR is going to reduce the speed at which your spirit gets diminished, and the attack speed is going to increase it, and you're going to get plenty of attack speed from other items. So then on the armor, we're going to go Dex, Vit, reduce damage from elites, single res. On the belt, Dex, Vit, all res, life percent. On the pants, Dex, Vit, armor or regen, and single res. On the boots, you want to go Dex, Vit, move speed, Tempest Rush damage, single res. And then I have a Hellfire Amulet that I used in the video. Dex, Crit, single res, and then a passive that gives you a damage buff on the monk passives. So that's Unity in this case, giving me a 15% bonus damage, as I understand it, with the 2 Mystic Allies and the Templar. And then on the Caesar's Memento, make sure you get lightning damage, crit chance, Dex, Vit, and single res, and then as high as a percentage as you can on the Tempest Rush damage. And then this is one of the only pieces so far that maybe looks like it's a T10 piece. This is going to be giving us 2 big bonuses for the goal we're trying to accomplish here. And that is increasing our pickup radius by a lot, up to 30 yards, by just picking up gold. And then Boon of the Hoarder is going to just make enemies who die explode into gold a certain percentage of the time, depending on how high leveled your Boon of the Hoarder is. And as we're picking up this gold, we're going to be moving faster. So we're looting progress orbs easier, so that's a quality of life thing. And then we have move speed bonuses for picking up the gold, in addition to increasing our pickup radius. So this is a very good ring for T10 Rush, speed farming builds. And the challenge of using this ring a lot of times in this gem is that you're going to be doing a lot less damage, but it turns out that this build, you can actually sacrifice a ring and a legendary gem slot and still do plenty of damage to clear T10 very quickly. And then finally, the Daibo. In this case, you want to have probably a Daibo that goes main damage, dex, then percent damage, and cooldown. Because you don't really need the vitality in this case. All the monsters are going to be stunned and dying, and you really don't take much damage at all, even though we're not putting almost anything into survivability here, into toughness. So yeah, if you can get a Daibo that has dex, damage percent, cooldown reduction, and a high Tempest Rush percent, then you're golden. Yeah, and then in the cube we have a furnace for extra damage to elites. Yep, this could be, you could put something else here. I'll go over it later though, but this is, in my opinion, kind of a no-brainer for this setup. Mantle of Channeling, 25% increased damage, 25% reduced damage taken when you're Tempest Rushing. We're always Tempest Rushing, so this is great. and then a Ring of Royal Grandeur in order to open up this extra damage. So basically, by wearing the Ring of Royal Grandeur as opposed to Sun Wuko's amulet, you free up a passive slot to give you more damage in this case, and that's what I did in the video. Now I'm going to go over these skills and show you kind of why this build is working like it is. So on the left hand side here we have Mystic Ally, Air Ally, which is giving us Spirit Regeneration, which helps us maintain Spirit for longer, and then also this is more importantly just kind of like a Spirit button, because ultimately we are going to be draining Spirit in this build, so you're going to have to hit Q occasionally in order to keep Tempest Rushing. So just keep that in mind as you're Tempest Rushing around. Make sure your Spirit doesn't run out, because then you won't be in Epiphany mode, which is really important to be in Epiphany mode, which I'll get to in a second. And then Mantra of Conviction, Annihilation. This is going to be just an amplifier. We do more damage, which is great. And then also, by choosing Annihilation, we're going to be moving faster after we kill enemies. So we're getting another move speed bonus on top of the gold pickup, which is really helpful to get around the rift or get to the next bounty or whatever. Sweeping Wind, Inner Storm. I used Inner Storm in the video. However, I don't think this is necessarily the best choice in this case. I know that I recently found out that you could use a different weapon here instead of Vengeful Wind by just testing it. I remember quite a while ago it wasn't possible. You would run out of Sweeping Wind stacks, but I don't know what changed, but now you can use that. You can use the Furnace here and maintain your Sweeping Wind stacks just fine. However, Sweeping Wind Inner Storm says as long as your Vortex is at 3 or more. And so you're always spending a stack to do more Tempest Rush damage. So I don't know how often this is actually at its 3 stacks or more. So I don't know if this is actually providing any sizable Spirit regeneration. So you probably are better off going the Lightning Sweeping Wind. But this is what I used in the video, so I just want to show it here as something that could work if you're using Vengeful Wind, or maybe you actually are noticing a significant Spirit regeneration effect due to this, but I can't say I've noticed anything significantly different in the Spirit world, in the Spirit regime with these two setups. So then these are the two most important skills in the build, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this. Epiphany Ascendance, the important part of this skill is the second part. It says charge yourself with lightning, causing your next attack after moving 10 yards to stun enemies for 1.5 seconds. Now, imagine your attack is 20 yards. It happens over a 20-yard radius around your character. So when you use Electric Field, this is what's going to happen. There's going to be this lightning field around you at 20 yards out that the second it touches an enemy, it does damage. And then the second part of this Epiphany Ascendance rune makes them stunned. So they get stunned by this 20 yards out skill. This Tempest Rush Electric Field stuns them, and then by the time you get to them with Tempest Rush, you're going to be doing all the damage that is promised by this Caesar's Memento, because they're going to be stunned. So that's perfect. So one of the problems that comes along with using Tempest Rush a lot of times is that you can't have something. You have to like blind them manually, or you have to freeze them or stun them somehow. But what this combo does is it stuns them before you get to them, before your character's on top of them, and then you have a chance to actually kill them with 1 or 2 hits of Tempest Rush, which is really all it takes, since you're going to be doing over 3 billion damage per tick as you're Tempest Rushing through them, and then you've cleared that content, and then your pickup radius picks up the gold or the progress orbs that fall behind you, and you just keep going. So these are really important, and they work together really nicely. And I'm going to put a little tiny video at the end of this build guide. It's going to be just a minute or 2 long, and it's going to really show you the difference between using Northern Breeze, just as an example, and Electric Field. as Tempest Rush runes, just to show you what I mean. And then of course Dashing Strike, I'm using Way of the Falling Star, and this is just to bridge the gap between density. So if you're in a low density area, just make sure you get to the high density area so you can keep killing enemies and you can keep picking up gold. That way you stay moving quickly and everything's great. All right, and then I just wanted, I mentioned the electric field, excuse me, the what is it called? Cyclone as probably a better choice for a sweeping wind. And I just want to now go over um, some gear that might be a better choice, but I didn't use in the video. If you had a ancient legendary, like a comparable hexing pants to your Sun Wukong pants, you might choose those and then also just wear Sun Wukong's amulet. You lose unity in this case. You lose the 15% damage increase, but you gain 25 from the hexing pants. So this is probably a better setup. So if you wanted to go probably Cyclone and then this setup, you might be better off. Additionally, this Bane of the Trapped, mine's really low percentage. That's the only reason I'm using Bane of the Powerful. And so if if you wanted to, if you had a Bane of the Trapped that was, I don't know, rank higher than would give you 35% increased damage, definitely do it, because then you're doing 35% damage plus to all the content, including trash mobs, whereas this one's just 35% to elites and 20 to everything else. So, yeah, that would be probably a more ideal setup. But this is what I used in the video. And yeah, I think that's it. So if you want to stick around and check out this quick breakdown of what these two look like working together, stick around. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Alright, hi everybody. I just want to quickly go over the Tempest Rush runes I've been talking about, specifically the Electric Field rune, but first I'm going to show you Northern Breeze, and just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like compared to using Electric Field. So if you saw the Rift Clear earlier, you can compare this visually to what it looked like in the Rift Clear. Yeah, it's pretty obviously a little bit slower, and the reason why is because you're stunning the enemies and dealing the damage at the same time, which means that you don't actually get the buff, you don't get the debuff as you're hitting them, or the yamp I should say. You want to ideally have them stunned and then deal your Tempest Rush damage, which means they got to be stunned by the time your character is on top of them. If they're not going to take the extra damage. So that kind of wastes a swing of Tempest Rush, which you don't want to do, because a wasted swing just slows you down. In a clean swipe, in an ideal case, you just want to have them stunned before you swing, and then hit them once or twice as you're passing by, and then for them to die in those 2 hits. And that actually does happen when you use Electric Field. And that's because it has this 20-yard radius, this AoE effect that makes sure that the mobs that are on the edge of it get stunned before your character gets on top of them. And by the time you get there, you're ready to deal your full Caesar's Memento buffed Tempest Rush damage, which is around 3 billion as opposed to 500 million. So in this next mob, you're going to see that happen. But yeah, that's kind of the key, is you just want to have them debuffed, and Electric Field, as you can see, is definitely the rune to make that happen. Yeah, hopefully this was helpful. I'll see you next time.